IMCOMnet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Good evening, everyone. In just 5 minutes is the countdown until Skynet. Skynet can be logged in early if you go to the W5FC.org website, click on the link, and you can log in. You can sign in to Skynet early just by doing that electronically. This is KF5JHA. The countdown is 4.5 minutes till Skynet. The countdown is 60 seconds. 60 seconds until Skynet begins. Once again, you can sign in electronically right now into Skynet. Go to W5FC.org, click on the link, and you can sign into Skynet early electronically. This is KF5JHA. We have about 40 seconds until Skynet begins.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? If so, come now. This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha. My name is Chaz, and I have a sidekick, Bob the Cat. I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Since the year 2012, Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, as well as astronomy and space and those kind of topics in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in the topics, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the post sign break break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from the net control. That's me. And stations are remanded to ID at the end of their transmissions, just like this. This is KF5JHA. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using W5FC-R station ID or the Echolink node 37247, as well as there's electronic check-in going to W5FC.org. Click on the link and you can electronically sign in. Right now we have, I think, at least 9 different people signed into on the electronic version. I will get to those in just a few minutes. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to W5FC.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. And once again, let me talk about something that's a video link. Yes, there's a video version of this on YouTube. Go to W5FC.org, click on the link, and you can do the video version. See pictures as well as hearing the audio of what's going on with Skynet. Now you can check in electronically. Already talked about that. Let's see now. We'll acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry if you want to check in via voice. We'll continue to do that over the air and also on Echolink in just a few minutes. All amateur operators are welcome. You need not be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts.
Kilo Alpha 5 Hotel India Mike, Rudy in Mesquite.
Hi, Rudy. You're logging in a little bit early. Let me see. You're in Mesquite. I wasn't taking check-ins yet. Can you come off your call sign once again? I wasn't ready to take your call sign.
Kilo Alpha 5 Hotel India Mike.
Thank you, Rudy. We'll get to sign-ins in just a few minutes. I'll finish the introduction in just a moment. So we have several different parts that this is broken into. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, space exploration, space history, Constellation of the week, space launches of the week, well, for the next week or so, visible at satellite passages, and also astronomical questions and answers if we've got time, and also 73 round. All amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. We currently have, let me see, I've got to go check. Excuse me, I was checking the online check-ins. We have now, just had another one added on there. We've got 12 different people online that is electronically checked in. Plus we have Rudy that just checked in early. That's great. So once again, we've got a bunch of people already checked in. Let's see now. Let's go ahead. Well, let me go ahead and acknowledge all these people. My name, once again, is Chaz. I'm KF5JHA. I live in, Milky Way galaxy, the solar system, planet Earth, North American continent, USA, Texas, Dallas County, and Mesquite. Well, that's a little bit more specific than most people will give with their location. So let me see. We've got Cody, K5MCD. He's in barely East Dallas. Bill, W5BLT, he's in Garland. Let's see, Brenda is WB5OZL. She's in Dallas. Tom, KE5ICX, he's in Corpus Christi. He's transmitting over the radio. Isn't that interesting? How do you do it that far? Maybe you can talk about that later on. NV5F Virginia, he's in Fort Worth. Dale, he's in N5LIG. I'm trying to read my own handwriting. He's in Mississippi. He's on Echolink. Bill, N5BB. He's in Irving. Rudy, I already checked in. Billy, she is, let's see now. She's from Planet 9. She's KF5PDS. And let's see now. Travis, he's KI5 PGM. He's in McKinney. And Dustin has checked in AB5DM. So I think those are the 12 people I've got listed so far that have checked in electronically or over the air. Let's see now. Let's start with short time check-ins. Do we have anybody that's short time that would like to check in? Come now phonetically, slowly, with your name and your call sign and your location if you'd like to check into Skynet. Once again, I don't do this very often, so if you do your call sign slowly, phonetically, that would help me a lot. Thank you very much.
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike
our short time.
Good evening, Ted. WB4MFI, one of our regular check-ins. That's great. All right, not hearing any more short-time check-ins. If you'd like to sign in with your, if you have just regular check-ins on radio frequency only right now, radio frequency only, come now with your call sign, phonetically, slowly, your name, and where you're transmitting from. We'll do this in groups of 3. For the next 3 people, please check in, and then we'll get to the next 3.
This is Alpha Golf 5 Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, 8G5 PM.
Golf 9 Sierra Golf.
This is 5 DKY, Glenn in Richardson, Texas. Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Rich, 8G5 PM. He's in Rockwall. Antonio, I've got you. I know I should know your call sign. You were breaking up a bit. Could you come back again with your full call sign? Try that twice slowly, and let's see if I can get it. Yes, this is Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf. Alpha Golf 9 Sierra Golf. Antonio? Thank you, Antonio. You were breaking up the first time. You were perfectly readable and very good that time. Okay, now we've got 2 people. We had a double that came in. Glenn, you won that one. Glenn, can you give me your call sign? I believe you're from Richardson. Please come now with your call sign, Glenn.
Kilo Juliet 5 Golf Kilo Yankee KJ5 GKY.
Thank you, Glenn. KG5 KJ5 GKY. Thank you, Glenn. Okay, the other person, as far as the double goes, I didn't get anything. You were kind of weak, and you lost the battle. So please come now with your call sign and your name and your location, please.
Kilo Foxtrot 5 Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
Zulu Bravo Lima. Thank you. I don't think you were the one that tied on the double, but that's okay. I've got you. All right, let's come out with the next 3 people. If you'd like to come sign in with Skynet, please come now phonetically, slowly with your call sign, your name, and your location if you'd like to sign in to Skynet. Let's take the next 3 people. Thank you.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra Gus, far, far northeast Dallas. This is Kilo Golf 5 Whiskey Victor Lima, Chaz in Carrollton.
Okay, I'll take those two. Gus, welcome. One of the regulars. He said far forward northeast Dallas. And James, you're in Carrollton. That's 2 R's, 2 L's in Carrollton, yes. Thank you so much. If you'd like to check in by radio frequency, come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, your name and your location. And this will be our, we're going to go to Echolink in a minute, but not quite yet. So radio frequency only right now. Right, hearing nothing. Let's go to Echolink. Echolink, I have only one person over on Echolink that has not checked in radio frequency-wise. Billy, would you like to check in by voice? Come now with your call sign and your name and your location. Now, Billy had already checked in by the electronic means. She's in Planet 9. That's her location. All right. Is there any other person that would like to check in any mode? Come now with your call sign, your name, and your location if you'd like to check into Skynet. All right, we've got 20 people. That's a healthy check-in right now. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? This can be ham, astronomical, space, or a general just to license ham. If you'd like to make an announcement, please come now with your call sign. Our usual person with an announcement, NT510, is not here tonight. Well, not yet here. Maybe he'll come on board later on. All right. Let's see now. There's lots of things that are going on this net. Lots of nets available. I'm going to skip the details about that, but there's everything that you'd like to do, anything from cooking to emergency communications to everything else. Even satellite communications. Yep. Okay. But go to W5FC.org to find the list of different things that you can sign into as far as nets. Happen every day of the week. Let's see now. Let's skip through this. Skip through that 3 pages of script that I'm just skipping through. Yep. Save some time. All right. Let's see now. There is another net after this net. It starts approximately 10:30, plus or minus a few minutes. It's called an Afterglow. It's a review of a movie that we've watched sometime over the last week. Last week was a movie called The Black Hole from 1977, I believe. Wasn't able to participate on that one, although I watched that movie way back in 1977. Interesting. This week there's another movie. Let's see now. Let's see if we can get KE5ICX to tell us all about that movie that we're going to review tonight on Afterglow. Tom, come now.
Well, thank you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX down in Corpus. Guess what this week's movie is called? It's called The Black Hole. Yes, but it's not the Disney one from 1979. This one is from 2016. Sometimes it's called The Mind's Eye and Quantum Voyage with Malcolm McDowell. But let me give you the highly accurate synopsis. Malcolm McDowell's 7 a.m. whiskey and water was disrupted by a phone call. That weird director from Denver was on the other end. It was pitch time. Now, baby, this will be just like Disney's The Black Hole. You'll love it. McDowell had heard this before, and his hope was the guy would just give up, or he'd be so in the bag by 11 he wouldn't hear the phone ring again. The director continued, of course, we don't have the money for a big black hole, but we do have money for a tiny one, the size of a marble. And we can get Ernest Borgnine cheap. He was right. Borgnine was dead. McDowell hung up the phone and headed for another morning toddy. The cupboard was bare. McDowell, already beginning to see clearly, immediately called the director back, saying he'd do the movies, but also telling him to pick up a few cases of booze on his way over to the house. So join us for The Black Hole from 2016 tonight at 10:30 p.m. As I said, it's sometimes called Mind's Eye and Quantum Voyage. This is a doozy, folks. You thought Primer was hard to understand. This one probably comes very close. Back to you, Chaz, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. We usually call Tom the father of Skynet. Yeah, I was the talent back in 2012 when we started. Tom was the one that actually did the heavy lifting back then. He still does the heavy lifting for Skynet, so we thank you very much for doing that, Tom. Okay, next on our list is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas. We have to call on a special person. Oh, that's me, to talk about that. And our video version, Tom does the slides for it. So slide number 1, please. On June the 27th is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas club meeting. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. And also there's a Zoom version. The featured speaker, I don't know, and I don't know the topic. Hopefully I'll find that out before next Skynet, and we'll let you know. Now, Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Now, there's no public observing session scheduled on the 5th Saturday of the month. Well, there will be next week. You can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. Okay, the next thing on our list is the National Space Society events and activities. Bill, N5BB, he signed in. Why don't you tell us about the NSS of North Texas?
Thank you, Chaz. This is Bill, N5 Bravo Bravo. I am the Vice President and the Membership Director of the National Space Society North Texas Chapter. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local NSS chapter website is ntx.nss.org. That's ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. Location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 7 people attended the May 30th Space Rendezvous event yesterday evening. We discussed many things, including the Blue Origin, things which are anticipated, and the Starship launch, which had some difficulties a few days ago. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, June the 27th. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next chapter meeting will be held on Sunday afternoon, June the 8th. Our presentation topic for this meeting is space welding. That's right, welding in space, by UT Dallas professor Dr. Wei Lee. That's Dr. Wei Lee. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact Bill in 5BB if you'd like to attend. The big event each year for the National Space Society is the International Space Development Conference, ISDC. The next ISDC will be held in Orlando, Florida, in a little over 2 weeks, coming up soon, June the 19th to 22nd, 2025. I will be there, as well as a number of other people from North Texas. And this is in 5DB. On Saturday, July the 19th, the National Space Society North Texas chapter will participate in the Moon Day event at the Frontiers of Flight Museum in Dallas. This is on Lemon Avenue over on the east side of the Love Field Airport fence. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill in 5BB at his QRZ-listed email address or at space@byram.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. And that's all I've got from the National Space Society. Back to you, Chaz. This is in 5BB clear.
Thank you, Bill. Once again, good evening, everyone. This is KF5JH8, and I'm your net control for Skynet this evening. And let's see now. Let's see if we have any more people that would like to sign in. If you'd like to sign in, come with your call sign phonetically, slowly, and your name and your location. I don't do this very often, about once every 3 months. So that's why I want you to do this phonetically and slowly. We've got 20 people signed into Skynet so far. Let's see if we can get a few more. Come now with your call sign, your name, and your location.
November 2, Victor India Papa, Ken Waskalinas, short time.
Ken, I like your call sign, VIP. That's wonderful. Las Colinas, welcome to the Skynet. I'm not sure if you're new to Skynet. I don't keep records of who is in here because I don't do this very often, but thank you for being here. All right, let's see now. The next thing on our list tonight is recent astronomical discoveries. That would be by Brenda, WB5OZL. Brenda, come now with your recent astronomical discovery segment.
Certainly. This is WB5OZL. This article is entitled Cosmic Mystery Deepens as astronomers find object flashing in both radio waves and X-rays. Astronomers from the International Center for Radio Astronomy Research, ICRAR, in collaboration with international teams, have made a startling discovery about a new type of cosmic phenomenon. Excuse me. The object known as ASKAPJ1832-0911 emits pulses of radio waves and X-rays for 2 minutes every 44 minutes. This is the first time objects like these, called long-period transits, or LPTs, have been detected in X-rays. Astronomers hope it may provide insights into the sources of similar mysterious signals observed across the sky. The team observed, I'm not going to keep saying this over and over, but ASKAP, by using the radio telescope on Wurundjeri country in Australia, owned and operated by Australia's National Science Agency, CSIRO. They correlated the radio signals with X-ray pulses detected by NASA's Chandra X-ray Observatory, which was coincidentally observing the same part of the sky. Discovering that I'm not going to say the whole thing again, was emitting X-rays felt like finding a needle in a haystack, said lead author Dr. Zaiting Andy Wang from the Curtin University node of ICRAR. The radio telescope has a wide field view of the night sky, while Chandra observes only a fraction of it. So it was fortunate that Chandra observed the same area of the night sky at the same time. LPTs, which emit radio pulses that occur minutes or hours apart, are a relatively recent discovery. Since their first detection by ICRAR researchers in 2022, 10 LPTs have been discovered by astronomers across the world. I'm going to reset. Currently, there is no clear explanation for what causes these signals or why they switch on and switch off at such long, regular, and unusual intervals. This object is unlike anything we have seen before, Dr. Wang said. This could be a magnetar, the core of a dead star with powerful magnetic fields, or it could be a pair of stars in a binary system where one of the two is a highly magnetized white dwarf, a low-mass star at the end of its evolution. However, even these theories do not fully explain what we are observing. This discovery could indicate a new type of physics or new models of stellar evolution. Detecting these objects using both X-rays and radio waves may help astronomers find more examples and learn more about them. According to second author, Professor Nanda Ray from the Institute of Space Science in Catalan Institute for Space Studies in Spain, finding one such object hints at the existence of many more. The discovery of this transient X-ray emission opens fresh insights into their mysterious nature. What was also truly remarkable is that this study showcases an incredible teamwork effort with contributions from researchers across the globe with different and complementary expertise, she said. The discovery also helps narrow down what the objects might be. Since X-rays are much higher energy than radio waves, any theory must account for both types of emission. A valuable clue, given their nature, remains a cosmic mystery. The paper, Detection of X-ray Emission from a Bright Long-Period Radio Transient, was published overnight in Nature. The subject is located in our Milky Way galaxy about 15,000 light years from Earth. All right, back to net. This is WB5OZL.
Thank you, Brenda. That's very interesting. I wonder if the WOW signal from the Big Ear radio telescope back many decades ago that we've never figured out. I wonder if that's a very long period transient object. I don't know. Interesting. All right, the next thing on the list is the discussion topic of the evening. That's usually done by the net control. Oh, that's me. And that would be slide number 2, please, slide master. The Carrington Event, bigger than that? Let me explain that. I'll review what we call the Carrington Event of September the 1st, 1859. In 1859, what Richard Carrington observed is what we now known as a white light flare associated with a coronal mass ejection, also called a CME. This is one of the largest solar events of its kind in the last 200 years. Independently, another observer, Richard Hodgins, observed this event as well. The CME took only 17.6 hours to make it the 150 million kilometer journey from the sun to the Earth. Most CMEs take a few days to make the journey. A geomagnetic solar flare affects observed was from Key Observatory magnetometer by a Scottish physicist, Balfour Stewart. Slide master, slide number 3. This was the beginning of a very large geomagnetic storm, the effects of which lasted for several days. Auroras were seen all over the world as far south as the Caribbean, Hawaii, and even Colombia, which is close to the equator. At times, the aurora light was brighter than the full moon. It is reported that the aurora is so bright over the Rocky Mountains that miners thought that it was morning twilight, and they began fixing breakfast. Wow. Slide master, slide number 4. At the time the Carrington Event, the telegraph was the main technology. Telegraphs were run by using batteries. During the event, some telegraphs were able to operate with the batteries disconnected to the voltage being produced along the wires caused by the intense geomagnetic storm that was taking place. Most telegraph systems actually failed. Some fires were caused by the electrified telegraph wires. Many telegraph operators received electrical shocks. I usually talk about the Carrington Event in August or September around its anniversary, which is September the 1st. Why talk about it now? Well, let's go to slide number 5, and we'll talk about why. On January 31st of this year, spaceweather.com, here it goes, a warning from the trees. How bad can a solar storm be? Just ask a tree. Unlike human records, which go back hundreds of years, trees can remember solar storms for a millennia or more. Nagy University doctoral student Pusha Makaya, well, I'm not sure how to pronounce her last name, but a discovery in 2012 while studying the rings of the stump of a 1900-year-old Japanese cedar. One ring in particular drew her attention. Grown in the year 774, 775, it contained a 12% jump in the radioactive carbon-14, about 20 times regular than the ordinary fluctuations from cosmic radiations. Other teams confirmed the spike in wood from Germany, Russia, and United States, Finland, and New Zealand. Whatever happened, trees all over the world experienced it. Slide master, slide number 6, please. Most researchers say, I'm laughing because I have a cat that's meowing, wants attention. Most researchers think it was a solar storm, an extraordinary one. Often we point to the Carrington Event that I just talked about in 1859 as the worst case scenario for solar storms. But the year 774, 775 AD storm was at least 10 times stronger. If it happened today, it would floor modern technology. In other words, squish it. Since the initial discovery in 2012, Makaya and others have confirmed 5 more examples. 12,450 BC, 7176 BC, 5259 BC, 664, 663 BC, and 993 AD. Researchers call them the Makaya or Miyake, maybe it's Miyake events. It's not clear if the Miyake events are caused by the sun. Supernova explosions and gamma ray bursts can also produce carbon-14 spikes. However, the evidence tilts towards solar storms. For each of these confirmed events, researchers have found matching spikes in beryllium-10 and chlorine-36 in ice cores. These isotopes are also known to trace strong solar activity as well. Moreover, the 774-775 AD event had eyewitnesses. Historical reports of auroras suggesting the sun was extremely active around that time. Slide master, slide number 7. Miyake events have placed dendrochronologists, those are scientists that study tree rings, in the center of space weather research. After the Mayake's initial discovery in 2012, the international tree ring community began working together to look for evidence of solar superstorms. Their collaboration is called Cosmic Initiative. First results published in 2018 edition of Nature confirmed that the Mayake event of 774-775 AD and the 993 AD were indeed global. Trees on 5 continents record carbon spikes in both of these events. There could be additional Mayake events. An important new source of data are floating tree ring records from Eurasia and the Great Lakes region. These are very old rings, could potentially capture the carbon-14 spikes as far back as 15,000 years. Wow. For more candidates of Mayake events, have recently identified 5628 BC, 5410 BC, 1052, and 1279. Confirmation requires checking trees on many continents and finding matching spikes in the beryllium 10 and 36 chlorine in ice cores. It's all part of the slow systemic process of radiocarbon tree ring research. Wow, interesting. Slide master, slide number 8. Okay, now on May the 21st, that's just earlier this week, spaceweather.com published the following. Trees remember an Ice Age solar storm more than 14,000 years ago. There was a solar storm so big, trees still remember it. Dwarfing modern solar storms, the event would have devastated technology if happened again today. Spoiler alert, it could happen today. The record strong storm is described in a paper in the upcoming July 2025 edition of the peer-reviewed journal Earth and Planetary Science Letters. It occurred in 12,350 BC and is classified as the Mayake event. The events are solar storms that make Carrington Event in 1859 look wimpy. Trees remember them in their rings, which store the carbon-14 created by gargantuan storms. At least 6 events have been discovered so far. We've talked about those events. And the discovery was first made in 2012. The event in 12,350 BC is especially intriguing and appears to be a carbon-14 spike in Scotch pine trees along the banks of a river in France, with a matching beryllium-10 spike and the Greenland ice cores as well. The event was global and based upon the size of the spikes, it was a very big one. And this is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. According to their paper, 12,350 BC is the biggest event yet seen. It produced a hailstorm of solar particles 500 times greater than the most intense solar particle storm recorded on modern satellites back in 2005. During the 2005 event, airline passengers flying over the poles might have received a year's worth of sea-level cosmic radiation in just 1 hour. During the 12,350 BC event, the same person would receive the dose in about 8 seconds and not an hour. Wow. I keep on saying wow, but it is a huge event. This would seem to set a new standard for the worst-case scenarios in space weather. However, these real news is even deeper. The door to the Ice Age has been kicked open by this research. Older tree rings may now be interpreted with confidence, potentially revealing even worse storms from the past. Okay, we look forward to that information. Let me see. Let's see if we have any more check-ins. If you would like to check into Skynet, come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, your name and your location. If you'd like to check into Skynet, please do so now. Right, hearing nothing. We'll go to our next segment of Skynet. It's called Waz Up. It's usually done by KF5JHA. Oh, that's me. And I guess I'll do it again. Slide Master, slide number 9. We call this segment of Skynet Waz Up because it's all about what's gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks, and maybe beyond too. Slide Master, slide number 10. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Coronaborealis, which may erupt at any time. It is currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with your two eyes. I checked this a few hours ago, and it's still at that brightness, not any brighter. Now, when it does go nova, T Coronaborealis could become as bright as the North Star, which is 2nd magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my eyes from my very light pollution location in Mesquite. So we might be able to see it from here, even inside the city, when it happens. But it hasn't happened yet. Slide Master, slide number 11. Okay, the sun is very active. This image, if you're looking at the video version of Skynet on YouTube, this image was taken just today, May the 31st, from spaceweather.com. The large sunspot complexes on the sun are so large that at times you could use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. That's all you need. The sun is near its 11-year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens. I just talked about the solar cycle about 3 months ago on Skynet and just gave you a review of the Carrington Event just a few moments ago. Believe it or not, in the last 24 hours, we had an M8.3 class solar flare that was really long and intense and could cause geomagnetic storms to take place over the next 2 days, either tomorrow or maybe even Monday. Who knows? Check spaceweather.com to find out more information about that geomagnetic storm. Slide Master, slide number 12. On May the 26th, the moon was new. So the current phase of the moon is a waxing crescent. The moon is at its first quarter phase on June the 2nd, just a couple days. On June the 7th, the moon will be at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 405,554 kilometers. On June the 11th, the moon will be full. On June the 18th, the moon will be at its third quarter phase. On June the 22nd, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 363,178 kilometers. On June the 25th, the moon will be new. Slide Master, slide number 13, please. All right, Mr. Slide Master, that would be Tom. Get your clicker ready. We're doing a marathon of several different events over the next couple of weeks. Slide 13, the moon and Mars will be in conjunction in the evening sky on May the 31st. Oh, wait, that's tonight. Wow. I think we're too late to see it because it's already set. Oh, well. Slide Master, slide number 14, June the 1st, that would be tomorrow. The moon and Regulus are in conjunction in the evening sky. Regulus is the bright star in the constellation of Leo the Lion. Slide Master, slide number 15, on June the 6th, the moon and Spica are in conjunction in the morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 16, on June the 8th, there's a conjunction of the planets Jupiter and Mercury in the western evening sky. There will be twilight. You might need a pair of binoculars to see them. Slide Master, slide number 17, on June the 10th, the conjunction of the moon and Ceres in the southwestern morning sky will take place. You'll see it after midnight on the 9th, but, well, I mean before midnight on June the 9th, but if you wait until June the 10th in the early morning sky, it'll be easier to see. Slide Master, slide number 18. On June the 17th, conjunction of Mars and the star Regulus in the western evening sky. Again, it's going to be in twilight, so you might need a pair of binoculars to see that. And finally, slide number 19, on June the 19th, there's going to be conjunction of the moon and the planets Saturn and Neptune in the early morning sky. You'll need at least a telescope in order to see the planet Neptune. What do you mean, at least a telescope? Well, you can't see with your two eyes or binoculars, so you'll need a telescope, yeah. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 20. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question or need a fill on any of the information I've just given you? Or do you just have a general astronomy question? Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
Whiskey 1, Mike Romeo Whiskey.
Go ahead. Come now with your question or comment.
Well, I'm this Whiskey 1, Mike Romeo Whiskey. Name is Mike. I just tuned in tonight after a long time of not being on this repeater, and I was just listening in, and I heard you calling for call signs. I really don't have a question, but I just wanted to check in if you're keeping account on people, and then also, too, just to say 73s and get in and let you know that I'm in listening. So, Whiskey 1, Mike Romeo, Whiskey 1, Mike Romeo Whiskey, back to the net.
Mike, thank you so much. Where are you transmitting from?
I'm in Mansfield, Texas. And how's my signal level? Am I holding squelch over there on the 880?
Oh, you are very clear. Absolutely perfect. Easily readable. No static or anything. So you're fine.
All right. Well, yeah. Again, I've been on this net before or listened in, and I've just started picking up my radio and kind of burning the dust off. So I've been getting back on the radio a little bit. So I tuned in and just got back home and I heard y'all. So just want to drop my call in and get in on the record. So Whiskey 1, Mike Romeo Whiskey, back to net.
W1MBW. I'm sorry, MRW. I have to read my handwriting. Thank you very much, Mike, for checking in, and I hope you come to Skynet. We're here every Saturday night from 9 until 10:30. Excuse me. All right, nice talking to you. So, Slide Master, slide number 21. So, as the moon waned last week, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live. Well, right now anyway. And until next time, actually, I'll be doing other things in Skynet here in a little bit, even including another segment. Keep looking up so you know Waz Up. And this is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, and this is Skynet, transmitting on W5FC Repeater at 146.88 megahertz. All right, let me see. I think our next segment is space exploration and space history. One of our regulars has become a regular contributor. Gus, W5GUS. It's up to you for space exploration and space history. It's yours.
Okay, thank you, Chaz. W5GUS here. We'll start with the space exploration news, and first item is about water on Mars. We've known for a long time that water was present on Mars' surface billions of years ago, but where did the water go and why? After a decade of searching, NASA's MAVEN mission, MAVEN is Mars Atmosphere Volatile Evolution mission, for the first time reported a direct, after 10 years of searching, reported a direct observation of an elusive atmospheric escape process called sputtering that could help answer long-standing questions about the history of water on Mars. Early on in Mars' history, the atmosphere of the red planet lost its magnetic field, and I guess Mars lost its magnetic field, and its atmosphere became directly exposed to the solar wind and solar storms. And as the atmosphere began to erode, liquid water was no longer stable on the surface, so much of it escaped into space. But how did this once thick atmosphere get stripped away? And sputtering could explain it. Sputtering is an atmospheric escape process in which I've lost my place here. Oh, okay, here it is. In which atoms are knocked out of the atmosphere by energetic charged particles. The direct observation of sputtering confirms that MAVEN did. It confirms that sputtering is the process that was a primary source of atmospheric loss in Mars' early history when the sun's activity was much stronger. Okay, well, we'll move on now to space-related birthdays. There's some pretty interesting ones, and this first one is well-known, space-related birthday, or space-related person. Sally Ride was born May 25th, 1951. And she was on STS-7, STS-41G. STS is Space Transport System 7 and number STS-41. Also, birthday in May 25th through 31st is Paul Scully Power. He was born May 28th, 1944, and was on STS-41. And here's the final one here is Michael Lopez Aliegra. He was born on May 30th, 1958. And there's letters here, KESGTK. I guess that's a ham call. He might have had a ham license. KE5GTK. Anyway, he was on STS-73, STS-92, STS-113, let's see, an April 2022 a SpaceX mission, Axiom mission, AX-1, and he has the distinction of has the most EVA time of all American astronauts. EVA is extravehicular activity, where he was actually outside of the capsule or the space station, or out in space. All right, we'll move on. Okay, we'll move on to this week in space history. First item is when John Kennedy, on May 25th, 1961, President John Kennedy, announced before a special joint session of Congress the dramatic, ambitious goal of sending an American safely to the moon and back before the end of the decade. He wanted to announce a program that the U.S. had a strong chance at achieving before the Soviet Union did. The Soviet Union put the first man into space, so Kennedy wanted something that U.S. was a little ahead of the Russians in. So after consulting with the Vice President Johnson and NASA Administrator James Webb, that's a familiar name, and other officials, he concluded that landing an American on the moon would be a very challenging technological feat, but an area of space exploration in which the U.S. actually had a potential lead over the Russians, or the Soviet Union. Thus, the Cold War is a primary contextual lens through which many historians now view Kennedy's speech. Okay, in 1983, in space history, May 26, 1983, the European Space Agency launched its first X-ray observatory into space. The spacecraft was called EXOSTAT, which stands for European X-ray Observatory Satellite. The mission was entirely devoted to studying the universe by looking exclusively at X-ray radiation. Human eyes aren't capable of seeing light in X-ray wavelengths. So by looking for X-rays using satellites and telescopes, astronomers can locate and study high-energy sources of radiation, which include like supernovas, active galactic nuclei, galaxy clusters, black holes, neutron stars, white dwarfs, and binary stars. Okay, well, on May 25th, 1973, Skylab, America's first space station and the first crewed research laboratory in space, lifted off on May 14th, 1973. Skylab established research in several areas, including the astronauts' physiological responses to long-duration space flight, earth sciences, and other physics and astronomy, with additional experiments in materials processing during launch. Oh, here it is. Yeah, during launch, Skylab lost its micrometeoroid shield that also provided thermal protection. Debris from the shield jammed one of the power-generating solar array wings, and it lost the other wing completely. So managers delayed the launch of the Skylab 2 crew of Commander Pete Conrad, pilot Paul Weitz, and science pilot Joseph Kerwin. They were engineers devised plans to save the overheated and underpowered space station. Okay, so Skylab 2 was launched on May 25th. Inspected the station and finally docked. The next day they erected a sunshade over the station to lower its temperature and save the day. Okay, May 28th, 2002, NASA announced that the Mars Odyssey spacecraft had detected large quantities of water ice below the surface of Mars. This was in 2002, May 28th. Odyssey carried a gamma ray spectrometer that was able to detect water-based, measuring the intensity of gamma rays and neutrons that are affected by the hydrogen in the water. The instruments had the ability to observe this neutron intensity within a depth of 1 meter below the surface, indicating that water ice is present at least that far down. Okay, and May 29th, 1999, Space Shuttle Discovery, which was STS-96, became the first spacecraft to dock with the International Space Station. Discovery was crewed by astronauts Kent Rominger, Rick Husband, Ellen Alcon, Tammy Jerrigan, Dan Berry, Julie Payette of the Canadian Space Agency, and Valery Tokarov of the Russian Space Agency. It spent over 5 days and 18 hours docked with the ISS. Crew transferred over 3,500 pounds of supplies to the ISS, including 84 gallons of water. They also performed housekeeping tasks for the benefit of the future crews that would live on the ISS, such as cleaning filters and checking smoke detectors. There would be 3 more shuttle missions, STS-101, STS-106, and 92, and the arrival of the Zvezda service module before the space station would be ready to host a long-term crew. Expedition 1 docked to the ISS on November 2nd, 2000. Okay, let's move on to May 30th, 1971. The Mariner 9 probe launched from Cape Canaveral, Florida. And following Mariner's 8th failed mission, the 22-day, which was 22 days earlier, Mariner 9 became the first mission to successfully orbit Mars. 3 previous Mariner missions had flown by Mars and sent back a limited amount of data. Getting into orbit around Mars was considerably more challenging, but allowed for far greater analysis. Mariner 9 arrived in the sky above Mars during a passive planet-wide dust storm. A massive planet-wide dust storm that prevented quality images from being taken. So after a month, the storm subsided, and Mariner 9 began mapping the surface. Its findings were groundbreaking. The cartography revealed ancient riverbeds, massive volcanoes, and a 3,000-mile-long canyon. Mars moons, Phobos and Deimos, were also photographed from close range for the first time. After one bountiful year in orbit, contact was lost with Mariner 9. It remains in a decaying orbit around Mars. Okay, last day of Mars, May 31st, 2015. The Cassini spacecraft made its final flyby of Saturn's non-spherical moon, Hyperion, which is the largest of Saturn's irregular potato-shaped moons. It's particularly unique because of its low density and sponge-like appearance. So after leaving Hyperion, Cassini visited other moons before beginning its grand finale, which was a series of dramatic dives between Saturn and its rings. And with that, that is the end of space history and exploration for this week. So back to net, W5GUS.
Thank you so much. This is KF5JHA, and we're into another segment called the Constellation of the Week. So, Slide Master slide number 22. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent T, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Lupus, the wolf. Now, the stars that now form the constellation of Lupus used to be part of the constellation of Centaurus. Together, they represent the sacrificed animal impaled by the centaur. The centaur was holding it toward the constellation of Era, the altar. The constellation was not associated with any animal in particular until the Renaissance times, when the Latin translation of Ptolemy's work identified it with a wolf. Now, Slide Master, slide number 23, what I consider one of the most important parts of Skynet, the jokes of the week. And it's associated with the constellation of the week. Now, for those of you that are not familiar with this, and I'm going to write down TSU. Jake, I see you over here on Echolink. I'm logging you into the Skynet K5 TSU. Jake, thank you so much for signing into Skynet. Anyway, so here we go. If you don't know the routine, if you'd like to make comments about my jokes over on Echolink, that would be great. At the Astronomy Club meetings, when I do these, they boo and hiss, and they applaud when I get to the very end, anyway, because it's the last one. So here we go. What do you call a wolf that studies philosophy? A self-aware wolf. Because these are all about wolves, because that's the constellation of the week. Husband said, honey, I think I just saw a wolf. The wife said, where? And the husband says, no, just a regular one. You know, the wife was saying where, like a werewolf. Oh, okay. What do you call a house that turns into a wolf during a full moon? That would be a warehouse. I saw a stage production of The Three Little Pigs yesterday. Fill in the blank. The pigs were pretty boring. Get it? Boring. But the wolf really brought down the house. Oh, come on, those are funny. Mozart runs into a bar. He's scratched and bleeding, and he can barely stand. The bartender asks him, "What's wrong? What happened?" So what do you fill in the blank spot with that? Mozart gasps and collapses on the floor and says, "I was just attacked by Wolfgang, and now I'm a dazed." Okay, that's a stretch for a joke, isn't it? Okay. The Invisible Man, the Wolfman, and Dracula were playing poker. How would you fill in that one? This is the last one, by the way. So remember, the Invisible Man, the Wolfman, and Dracula were playing cards. They tried to get a mummy to play, but they had no skin in the game. Oh, yeah, okay. The Invisible Man tried to bluff, but people saw right through him. And Dracula ended up bleeding him dry and leaving the Wolfman howling mad. Oh, okay. That's Slide Master, slide number 24. Help me get out of this. Miss Kellen was heavily involved in variable stars, so it is fitting that the 3 stars I've chosen to cover, all of which are variable stars tonight. Alpha Lupi, the brightest star in the constellation of Lupus, has an apparent magnitude of 2.3 and is approximately 460 light years distance from the Earth. It is 10 times more massive than the Sun and is about 25,000 times more luminous than the Sun. Alpha Lupi is classified as a beta Cepheid variable. It exhibits periodic variations in luminosity as a result of pulsations in the atmosphere. It has a period of about 7 hours and 6 minutes. Beta Lupi is the second brightest star in Lupus, and its apparent magnitude of 2.68, approximately 383 light years distance from the Earth. Like Alpha Lupi, it is classified as a beta Cepheid variable with a modal period variable with a dominant period of about 5 hours and 34 minutes. Supernova remnant SN 1006 that I'll talk about later is close by. Delta Lupi is another blue-white subgiant. It has an apparent magnitude of 3.22 and is approximately 900 light years distance from the Sun. The star is about 10,000 times more luminous than the Sun and has 12 times the mass. Delta Lupi is also classified as a beta Cepheid variable and has a period of about 4 hours. Slide Master, slide number 25. NGC, which stands for New General Catalog 5986, is a globular cluster. 33,900 light years from distance from the Earth. The cluster has an apparent brightness of 7.52, can be found 2.5 degrees to the northwest of the star Eta Lupi. Slide Master, slide number 26. NGC 5927 is another globular cluster in Lupus, located near the border of the constellation Norma. Yep, there's a constellation called Norma. And it has a apparent magnitude of 8.01 and is approximately 24,800 light years distance from the Earth. The cluster was discovered by James Dunlop in 1826. Slide Master, slide number 27, please. NGC 5882 is a planetary nebula in Lupus. It has an apparent magnitude of 9.4. It's also known as the ghost of Uranus because of its size and color is close to that of the planet Uranus in telescopes. How about that? Slide Master, slide number 28. NGC 5822 is a challenge object because it is so low in the sky. It never gets higher than about 3 degrees above the horizon. NGC 5822 is a large open cluster approximately 6,000 light years from the Earth. This is apparent magnitude of 10.28. Slide Master, slide number 29. This object, supernova 1006, is a supernova remnant and cannot be seen from the surface of the Earth. The image that you're seeing on the video version of Skynet was taken by Chandra in the X-ray spectrum. Why am I talking about this unseeable object? SN 1006 is important because it is a supernova that is likely the brightest observed stellar event in recorded history, reaching an estimated minus 7.5 visual magnitude. That's much brighter than the planet Venus. In other words, roughly more than 16 times the brightness of Venus. Appearing between April the 30th and May the 1st, just a month ago, would have been the anniversary, 1006 AD, in the constellation of Lupus. This guest star was described by observers across the modern-day countries of China, Japan, Iraq, Egypt, and the continent of Europe, and possibly even recorded in North American petroglyphs. Some reports state that it was clearly visible in the daytime. Modern astronomers now consider it a distance from the Earth of about 7,200 light years. Can't see from the Earth right now, but Chandra was able to do that. This is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide master, slide number 30, excuse me. There's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects on the constellation of Lupus the Wolf. I've given you just a sampling of some of these objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 74 different observing programs. Now, most of them have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen from the Astronomical League in about a year. Slide master, slide number 31, and that is Miss Killen's constellation of the week, Lupus the Wolf. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information as well. Now, next week, we'll take a look at summertime constellation, Scorpius, the Scorpion. This is KF5JJ. Let's see now. I'm going to see if we have any more people. Oh, do we have anybody that would like a fill or have a question about the constellation of the week? Do we have anybody that would like to sign in to Skynet? Jake, over here in Echolink, I've got you, K5TSU. Jake, I've got you checked into Skynet. You are number 23 on our list of people that have signed in. If somebody else would like to sign in, come down with your call sign slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location if you'd like to sign into Skynet. Okay, not hearing anything. Let's see now. The next segment on Skynet, it's actually two segments I'm going to ask someone to take care of. Space launches for the week and also visible satellite passages. Tom, KE5ICX, usually does this, and you're going to be up to that tonight, I believe so. So here we go. Tom, you can do both of them back to back.
Well, thank you, Chaz, and this is KE5ICX. Let's see, what do we have? We have test flight number 1. This is to be determined. This will fly in from pad 1 at the Bowen Orbital Transport. This is located at the Gilmore Space in Australia. During the launch, the inaugural flight of its Eros Block 1 rocket. The 3-stage launch vehicle is about 82 feet tall and is equipped with 4.9 diameter payload fairings. The rocket is designed to send up to 305 kilograms into low Earth orbit. This first mission is called imaginatively Test Flight 1. Does not appear to have a payload on board. We're still waiting. This has been going on since May, or early May, because they did not have a launch permit. So I guess they have one now. We have a launch on June 2nd, Falcon 9, part of the Starlink series. This one's 12-19. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, Florida. It'll be another batch of Starlink V2 mini satellites into low Earth orbit. A little more than 8 minutes after launch, first booster will target a landing on a drone ship positioned in the Atlantic Ocean just east of the Bahamas. Then we have June 2nd, 3rd overnight Electron launch from Full Stream Ahead is the name of the mission. Window opens at June 3rd at 11:30 a.m. New Zealand time, and then it will launch sometime after that. Launch Complex 1, Pad A at 9, New Zealand. The Launch Electron rocket will launch the next of Black Sky's Gen 3 satellites into a mid-inclination circular orbit at 470 kilometers. These are Earth imaging satellites that use AI-enabled analytics for daily intelligence operations. That sounds mysterious. This will be Rocket Lab's 10th launch for the Black Sky to date, and it's the 7th Electron mission for the year. Then we have Falcon 9 launch on June 8th. This will be one of the Axiom missions, number 4 to be exact, from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. This will be the 4th private astronaut mission to the International Space Station. Former astronaut, Axiom Space Director of Human Space Flight, will serve as the commander of the mission. This will be her 5th trip into space and her 2nd time commanding a private astronaut mission. Shubhasu Shukla, an Indian Air Force pilot and astronaut with the Indian Space Research Organization, will be the pilot aboard SpaceX Crew Dragon. Solas Yelaski-Levinsky, a Polish member of the European Space Agency Astronaut Reserve Class of 2022, and Tibor Kapu, a Hungarian member of the Hungarian to Orbit Astronaut Program, will serve as mission specialists. These 4 astronauts will spend up to 14 days docked at the ISS after launching from NASA's Kennedy Center on a Falcon 9 rocket. Following space separation, the booster will target a touchdown at Landing Zone 1 at Cape Canaveral Space Force Station. On June 13 will be a launch of an Atlas V called the Kuiper 2 mission. This will be from SLC 41 at Cape Canaveral. The Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket is in a 551 configuration, which will launch a second batch of 27 Project Kuiper satellites for Amazon. The mission is referred to as Kuiper Atlantis Atlas 02 by Amazon. Then we have on June 23rd, 24th, will be the final launch of the H-2A GoSat GW. This will be launched from Launch Pad 1 at Kagoshima Space Center in Japan. The Mitsubishi Heavy Industries Company Limited H-2A rocket will launch the Global Observing Satellite for Greenhouse Gases and Water Cycle, or GoSat GW, a Japanese Earth observing satellite. The roughly 6,300-pound satellite will operate in a sun-synchronous orbit at an altitude of 414 miles. This spacecraft comes from a partnership between the Japanese Ministry of Environment, the National Institute of Environmental Studies, and the Japanese Aerospace European Agency. The 2 primary instruments are the Total Anthropogenetic and Natural Emissions Mapping Spectrometer 3, or TANSO 3, and the Advanced Microwave Scanning Radiometer 3, or AMSTER 3. This will be the 50th and final launch of the H-2A rocket. And then one last one for this group. There'll be a Falcon 9 launch sometime in June, to be determined, Transporter 14. This will be from SLC-4E at Vandenberg over in the West Coast. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch dozens of payloads for the latest small-sat rideshare program called Transporter. This mission, dubbed Transporter 14, will include a variety of customers, including the MayaSat-1 capsule from the exploration company, the Aussie OTV, that's an orbital transfer vehicle from UARX Space, and 3 Hermanez Pocket Cubes from the AMSAT DL, one of our very own. Falcon 9 first stage booster will perform a return to landing site touchdown at Landing Zone 4, less than 8 minutes after the launch. Okay, next up are space passages over the next few days. Let me open that up. The International Space Station has one lonely pass this week. Tonight, 11:10, 9:32. Forget it. It already went over an hour ago, so we can skip that one. I don't have any new passes beyond that currently reported, so we'll just have to wait. So next up is Tiangong. That's the Chinese space station with 3 tachinauts on board. We have several passes that are good, although there's one almost daily. You should be able to see, but I'm going to highlight the ones that are best or most easiest to see in the Dallas area. We have on June 6th, minus 0.6 magnitude, 20:02:01 in the evening. It'll reach its highest point at 31 degrees at 22:04, and it'll fall to the east-northeast at 22:06. January 7th, we have a minus 1.6 magnitude. This is at 21:44 out of the northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 53 degrees at 21:47, and it'll fall to the east at 21:49. Then we have June 8th, minus 1.1 magnitude. That's at 22:24 out of the west-northwest. You're sensing a pattern here. It'll reach its highest point at 36 degrees at 22:26, and it'll go into shadow at that same 22:26 at 36 degrees. And then finally, June 9th, minus 2.1 magnitude, very bright, 21:26 out of the west-northwest. It'll reach its highest point at 73 degrees at 21:30, and then it will fall to the southeast at 21:32. So if you're looking to see the Tiangong, you've got a number of good passes. In fact, if you just check the schedule over at heavensabove.com and then plug in your longitude and latitude or your city, you should be able to get the same information I just read to you. And check out Tiangong. There are a number of passes that are quite good. That space station keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. I think it's up to 4 modules now. Back to you, Chaz. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. Yes, actually May and June are really good evening times to look for satellites. And about 6 months from now, that would be in the morning sky to see satellite passages. It has to do with the sun angle and all sorts of other things, too. But right now, this month and next month are ideal times to go out and see satellite passages. So if you get an opportunity, go out there and take a look. And once again, heavens-above.com. Put in your latitude, longitude, and your elevation, and it can tell you predictions for your location for both evening and morning passages. So that's a great place to go. Thank you very much, Tom. You know, it takes a bunch of people putting together a script. I'm looking at a 24-page script, and it usually it's about a half a dozen people to put this whole script together every week, and it represents hours of time to put it together. So anyway, Tom's just one of them. Let's see now. We have astronomical questions and answers. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to have an answer to, or do you have a comment that you'd like to make? Come now with your call sign and your name if you'd like to come up with a question or you have a comment. Have asked if there's anybody on Skynet that would like to check in. Come now with your call sign, slowly, phonetically, and your name and your location if you'd like to check into Skynet. This is going to be about the final check-in. Please come now. I don't see anybody over on the electronic check-in over at the website. Let's see now. I do have one more person, Robert AE5QE. I'm going to check you in to Skynet this evening. That would make for 24 people on Skynet this evening that participated over the air or in Echolink. Thank you for all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night. From 9 until 10:30 to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and for all other DARC net. Hey, if I can do this, you can do this too. If you'd like to try your hand at net control or even trying a segment on Skynet, you can email us at nets@ W5FC.org. You can follow topics and discussions about the net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to W5FC.org at the conclusion of this net. Now, until next Saturday night, this is Chaz, KF5JHA, and I'll be closing this net at, let me see, that would be 10:29 p.m. local time, and returning this repeater to normal amateur use. Well, I'm not normal, so I don't know how that really responds. 73, everybody, enjoy the evening discovering the universe. Tom, do you want to...
I'm completely operational.
Start the
all my circuits are
Afterglow
functioning
net.
perfectly.
Afterglow movie net.
Yeah, thank you, Chaz. Thanks for doing the net this evening. We had a lot of stuff to cover, and we appreciate it very much. Carrington Event was really cool. I like your update on that and the information you had. Very illuminating. We'll be back with the black hole, not the one from last week, but the one from this week. So no Disney. This one is the one with Malcolm McDowell. We'll be talking about it in 5 minutes. 5 minutes. And if you haven't seen the movie, that's okay. You might have been better off not seeing it, but a lot of us did watch it, and we'll be talking about it, complaining about it, praising it, and other things. So come on by. We will discuss it, the black hole from 2016 with Malcolm McDowell. We'll see you in 5. This is KE5ICX. All right, well, I guess it is time to get started. This is our weekly movie review discussion, and tonight's movie is called The Black Hole from 2016. So, let's see here. Let me get started with something. Just to let everyone know, of course, I lived in Dallas for 30-something years and moved to Corpus Christi, Texas, and so I'm using the All-Star link to continue to do this net and the Skynet net here remotely. So today was an interesting day. We had the big event here in the area, one of them. This one is the Beach to Bay Relay Marathon. Now, some of you know that I'm a runner, and I've enjoyed doing this over the last few years, and this is their big event, or one of their big events, but this one involves about 8,000 people here in the Corpus Christi area. And I got up at about 3 a.m. this morning to get out, and I ran a segment. You don't have to run the whole thing, although there were about a dozen people who did, and boy, did they look tired when they were done. 26 miles. I only had to do 4.2, so that was easy by comparison, although it was pretty hot. But we also have full radio, amateur radio support. This one came from the South Texas Amateur Radio Club, or STARC. Randy was there. He did his part with radio support over at the finish line, covering those 26 miles for a bunch of hams, some of whom I saw and waved at as I ran by from my segment. But it was a very big event and a lot of fun. So looking forward to that. Field day's coming up next month, and I'm going to come back to Dallas and spend it with the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. We'll be doing our annual movie thing, I hope, if everything goes according to plan. And we'll have the movie between 10:30 and 12 o'clock during field day that Saturday evening. So if you had a choice of something you would like to do, a movie that you like to see, no holds barred. If I can find a copy of it, I will, and we will show it to our small audience of aficionados. We've done very good movies, we've done very bad movies, so your choice. Okay, now moving on to tonight's movie. It was called The Black Hole, or sometimes called Quantum Voyage. This film was done and directed by Mark Grove and released in 2016 on December 2nd. The plot is very short. Let me reset. Now, there's a reason the plot is short, because it was very difficult to follow. It says this: a violinist has hallucinations that show her the collapse of space and time. The visions she experiences and the things she hears lead her to a portal through time and space to a parallel dimension. It sounds great, doesn't it? But the parallel dimension looks like our regular dimension, only with a funny hat. And that's about it. It starred Malcolm McDowell. Why? I don't know. He's in this. He's got like 20 minutes and plays a high school music instructor, I guess, Mr. Sims, Dean Cain, whoever he is, Izzy Steele, some other people. It says the movie was shot in Boulder, Colorado, on Colorado State, and was meant to be released in June of 2011. According to the film's producer, Boulder was chosen because it's a beautiful, under-photographed place and that no one has ever recognized its Gothic possibilities in a film before, whatever that means. Permits were sought for locations in Boulder and the University of Colorado campus. Yay. It's definitely on campus. The film is filmed and produced in Boulder and was set to highlight Boulder and use its local talent. It said that the outside production companies and productions are in Boulder. They show a stereotyping of Boulder as People's Republic-ish. They're on the Pearl Street Mall. They make references to Birkenstocks and wheatgrass and whatever is crunchy liberal. I guess she said that. She said that she feels that the city has a welcoming and threatening presence, and she wanted to note the Gothic presence that hangs over the city. I didn't see any of that. And the city being the character of the film, I didn't see that either. Ursos and her production company, Blackwing, also based in Boulder and keeping with the Boulder promotion. They had some local actors, I guess. Boy, even this thing doesn't make a lot of sense. The film was initially declared to be released in 3D. Though confusion arose as it was reported that it was shot fully in 3D, which is mostly 2D, with a plan to film one of the major scenes in 3D, probably with a funny hat. Filming was scheduled for the 21st of May 2011 to 29th, with shooting beginning in 2011. Okay, I guess that's it. Boy, I thought there might be something interesting about production, but even the production stuff is underwritten. Oh boy. Well, here we go. This is the game. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. I'm going to ask if you've seen this movie. I'm going to ask for a call sign, your name, and did you see this movie? After I get the check-ins, then we'll go down the list and ask if you did see it, what did you think about the plot? Starting with plot, followed by another round of acting, followed by the final round, if we have time, for special effects and anything that you want to talk about or any information that comes along that you think you need to further discuss. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, The Black Hole from 2016 with Malcolm McDowell? Please go ahead.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill noted. Yep, I saw it.
Did not see the movie with Rodney McDowell in it.
I think I doubled. This is Inside DD, Bill and Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
November, Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia, in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw this movie, and Bill, you got through. It was the other station that got clobbered in V5F.
November 2, Victor India Papa, coming out from being clobbered. This is Ken. I did not see the movie.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey J Norweatford. I saw the first couple minutes of it and decided it wasn't for me.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima. Name is Brenda in Dallas. I did see this movie, the whole stinking mess, every minute, and it's not for me.
Whiskey 5, bacon, lettuce, tomato. W5BLT Bill. I hate to admit it, but I will. Yes, I saw the movie.
Alrighty, well, we got a few checked in here. Let me start at the top. I've got Bill, N5DD, over in Irving, yes, he saw the movie. And then there was the double, but I'm coming back to him. NV5S, that would be Virginia. She's over in Fort Worth. She saw the film. N2VIP, no, you did not see the film. Refresh my memory. What's your name? I'm sorry. Please come back with your name. Oh, maybe it's Ken. Is it Ken? It's Ken, isn't it?
Yes, it's Ken.
Came to me in an epiphany, and I've got you down as mercifully not having seen this film, but I may ask you somewhere down the road, would you be willing to watch it even though you've heard interesting comments about it? And there have been several people who have actually answered to the affirmative on films that we have panned greatly. I have a feeling this may be one of them, but we'll find out. So hang in there, Ken, and if you do fall asleep, I fully understand. Next up is KG5BZW, that'd be Jay near Weatherford. He did not see the movie, and Jay, I may ask you the same question. But you're a regular, so you're a trooper no matter what. You may watch it anyway. KB9SOK, Sean over in Fort Worth, yes, he saw the film. WB50ZL, Miss Brenda in Dallas, yes, she reluctantly saw the film. And one of our favorites, W5BLT, Mr. Bacon, Lettuce, and Tomato Bill, yes, he saw the film. Anyone else want to join us? Please come with your call sign name, and did you see The Black Hole, the one with Malcolm McDowell? Okay, we have a quorum. Let's go ahead and get this turkey going, starting with Bill, N5BB. Bill, what did you think about the plot for our fine film, The Black Hole, from 2016?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. First, there were no black holes. There was no discussion of black holes. Nothing in space. Just the movie got released evidently in different places at different times with 3 different names: The Black Hole, Quantum Voyage, and Mind's Eye. When they visited a theater in the movie, in this movie, they visited a movie theater to see really weird goings-on, and as they walked through the lobby, there was a poster, and Maddie commented, "Oh, that sounds like a good movie. I got to see it." Well, that poster was for Mind's Eye. So it appears they really meant to call the movie The Mind's Eye, which is slightly more useful a title than Black Hole. By the way, there's lots of black hole movies, more than just 2 we've seen so far. The plot. If there's anything that has black holes in it, it's the plot. It's full of holes. It's Swiss cheese. You go in one hole and you may come out another hole. It doesn't make any sense. And the further you go through the movie, does it make more sense? No. If anything, it makes less sense. You have things like a little person playing an accordion with some weird music on the stage. For what reason? No reason. We don't know why. They just do it because they can. So this appears to me to be one of these movies, we've seen other ones like this, where they throw different things at you because they can. They're making a movie. And they think they can just make up things, make up scenes they think are interesting, and they just throw them at you. Do the scenes fit together? No. Do they make sense as far as the characters go? No. But they can do it, so they do it. So this is that kind of movie. Makes no sense. The whole point of it, it makes no sense. For those of you, I'm going to do a spoiler here. For those of you that haven't seen it, what we're led to believe at the end of the movie is that a girl that was severely injured in an automobile accident and eventually dies, that she was there in a vegetative state, in her mind imagining things led to these all the action we see in the movie, which makes no sense at all. There's no way I can. That doesn't make any sense at all. One thing that bothered me greatly was right in the movie, like the first scene, we see this other character, Elena, I think was her name, and we see Elena and Maddie Carver interacting, and one of them, was it Elena, has some blood or something. Why? We never learn. What's going on there? We never learn. That was a scene that had, to me, nothing to do with the rest of the movie, hardly. The whole Edgar's Church of the Revelation, and the two guys, Steve and was the other guy, Dean, the two guys involved with it, who later on were the ambulance drivers, the EMTs. That made no sense. Zero sense. I did not understand any of that. I don't find any way of understanding it. I don't understand the fact that Maddie, every time she went to her house, it was different. First, it was one house. Then they brought her back. It was a mobile home. And she went in the house, and she didn't seem that concerned. It was a totally different place. The third time she came back, it was a totally different house. Where was her mom and her dad? Even though they were divorcing. Don't know. They weren't there. In the movie, there is a tornado. What did that have to do with anything? It just disappeared, too. That had no sense. One of the characters tried to make up something about Newton's laws of motion and action and reaction. And they tried to tie this somehow with quantum physics and entanglement. There's no physics in any of that. It's a bunch of hogwash. It's bad hogwash. It's not even woo-woo hogwash. It's just words thrown together that are meaningless. What else can I say about this movie? I think that's enough. I don't understand. Another thing that bothers me is they filmed it in 2011. When was it released? 2016. What went on in those 5 years? Why did it take them 5 years to edit this pile of stuff down to what we saw? Maybe they had multiple other movies they were thinking about making, and they just decided to edit it to give what we saw. I don't know why it took them 5 years to do that, though. That's me. That's it for me in 5EB.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Bill. Yeah, I got my own notes here, very much along the same lines. Okay, next up, just because I have them written in this order, will be Virginia, NV5F of Virginia. Your thoughts on this film? I saw some of your comments when we watched this film together via the interwebs last night. You didn't seem overly keen on this film. Do you still feel the same way, or did you have a change of heart and now you love this film more than 2001?
Okay, here we go. Okay, I have a couple theories. Theory number one, the reason it took them till 2016 to get this on the screen was because they probably, this is my theory, they made a movie, it had once they got it done, they were like, this really is boring and stupid, and so they decided to try to re-edit everything and completely change the plot, and it made it even more incoherent than probably what they started out with. Theory number two. I bugged Tom for a year to watch The Black Hole 1979 by Walt Disney Studios, and he turned me down on several occasions despite my impassioned pleas for us to watch The Black Hole 1979, starring Maximilian Schell and Ernest Borgnine and Anthony Perkins and Roddy McDowell. And he, I think, chose this movie in order to torture me for the last movie. But I also have another theory that Tom, at this very moment, is is longing for the heady days of Dr. Hans Reinhardt and the Cygnus and Max and Old Bob. So here goes my thoughts on the plot of this movie. There's stuff that's just plain like they're trying too hard to be, mysterious. Because you got that one character that Bill mentioned. He called her Elena. I couldn't remember what her name was. Maybe that was her name. It was something like that. And she was sort of there, and then suddenly she wasn't, and it was almost like she was imaginary, and that was what kicked the whole thing into, right away, okay, I'll give them this. From the very first scene that this movie is going to be weird, okay? So at least you're not like, oh, this is a normal movie, and then suddenly you're like, oh, this is totally weird. But then they put that one character at the very end when you think everything's resolved and everything's back to normal, quote unquote, and then just when you think you kind of know what's going on, that one character shows back up again, and it's obvious that she's a kind of non-person character from the weirdness of this movie, and it was supposed to be some kind of framing device, and it failed miserably because just when you thought you were at some kind of a resolution, there she was. They also threw a little Malcolm McDowell in there at the end. I disagree with the terminology of him starring in this movie. He was not starring in it, but I'm sure he probably got paid higher than anyone else in it. But he just, probably somebody knew somebody, and they're like, hey, we can get Malcolm McDowell. But that's a whole second round issue. So this movie, it could have been, it was about 10 minutes worth of plot. It was maybe a Twilight Zone episode. There's actually a Star Trek The Next Generation episode that this reminds me of, but it had a pretty good plot. It was about Mr. Worf, and he was flying back to the Enterprise in a shuttle on the way home from a Batleth tournament, and he gets to the Enterprise, and it's his birthday, and at his birthday party, all this weird, inconsistent stuff starts happening. 1 minute the cake is vanilla, the next minute it's chocolate. 1 minute Captain Picard is there, the next minute he's not. And they have to, he's the only one who, notes all the odd inconsistencies that keep happening, and he keeps going round and round through this sort of like time loop, and every time he does, there's something has changed, and they finally figure out that there's like millions of timelines all intersecting, and they have to find the exact place where they all broke apart, and it's kind of like this. It's really frustrating, but it has a plot. Like there's something he's trying to accomplish, and this kind of reminded me of that, except with you've got this character, and she doesn't have an obvious thing she figure out, except that everything's weird and she doesn't know why, but there's there's just nothing there. It's just random for the sake of being random. These kind of things to me just hide the fact that people are trying to hide the fact that they didn't really have a good story. They might have had a premise, but they didn't have a real story for that character. And yeah, the whole quantum entanglement, and you never know whose mind are we really in. Are we in her mind? Are we in her friend who is in the car accident? Are we in her mind? And then the next minute the roles have switched places, and then there's like different timelines where her friend is like has a totally different personality, and then there was supposed to be sort of a little romance thing with the teacher, the science teacher, and the guidance counselor, and the Malcolm McDowell thing, and he was just thrown in there because he's famous, and her playing the violin, and there was just no sense of like a personal thing about a character or what they wanted or what they were trying to do. Until about the last quarter of the movie, you at least sort of start to figure out what's going on, but it's kind of too late. I will say the plot, the weirdness of it, and then finally it sort of getting some kind of direction, even though the reasoning about quantum physics and Newtonian physics was all lame. But it reminds me of old science fiction movies where they did that, or even Star Trek, old Star Trek, or something where they just kind of made something up. They just said a bunch of jargon, and, you know, so I know we're used to things like having better consulting than they do these days, better consulting than they used to have on, like, what's plausible. In this movie, it sounds like they just kind of were like, well, we want to have a planetarium in it, so let's do that, and let's turn it into, it just, there was no interest, there was no line of interest that really kept you, like, you just kind of wanted it to end because it was so random, you know, it was the same thing round and round, but it was a little different every time, and you didn't know whose mind you were in, or whether you were in a real place, or you know, someone's dream, or whatever. The only thing in this whole movie that made any sense to me was when finally the main character figures out that, you know, she has to deal with the fact that she had a car accident, and that because of that her best friend is in the hospital, and she is supposed to face that by going in to see her friend, and she doesn't want to, and she's going to leave the hospital, and she keeps trying to leave, and she always ends up back at the room, the door of the room, of Jess's room, and the only thing about that's the only thing in the movie that kind of made sense to me, because it reminded me of so many dreams I've had where I'm trying to get somewhere or do something, and I just can't get somewhere. It's usually in an airport, and I'm trying to find my gate to get to my gate for my flight, and I'm in this crazy airport that's like a maze, and I can't ever seem to get where I'm going before my flight leaves. I've had other dreams that are similar, but that's the only part of the plot that made any sense to me. It kind of tried to make sense at the end, but there just wasn't enough story for the rest of it to really, you know, it's supposed to be psychological and have all this, you know, getting to the, I don't know. I mean, I've seen so many other movies do stuff like this, like, way, way better, and I think they just didn't have a really good idea as to what to do with this germ of a story they had, and so it took them 5 years, and it still didn't amount to much. So I'll end there. Back to net NV5F.
Yeah, and I got some notes here. Thanks, because that gives me something to talk about, because some of your comments make a lot of sense. Okay, next up would be Ken into VIP, and Ken did not see the film, and hopefully he's still out there, because I'm going to come back to him in a little bit and see if he wants to see this film. Next up is KG5BZW, that's Jay, near Weatherford, not in Weatherford, but near it. Jay, your thoughts on the plot for our fine film? The Black Hole, or Quantum Journey, or Voyage, or I don't know what. It got different names in different states. I think these people are on the run. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
All right, this is Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey. I did say I watched like a couple minutes, 2 or 3 minutes of it, and decided it was not for me. I'll go ahead and tell you why, though, in that brief viewing, I decided I wasn't going to watch it. Hey, okay, I did see this film was 2 hours, which, you know, it's like, that was, it's anything, I mean, if it's something strange and quirky and kind of cool, I could certainly watch it, but this film, they were already starting off into the mysterious zone, which, okay, I mean, some of the, you know, you got blood dripping on stuff and then not there, and okay, fine. But then there was this dumb focus on a sink suddenly dripping or not dripping, and it struck a nerve with me because, you know, they're showing me this for some reason, but it hasn't even been established why this is supposed to be mysterious or whatnot. It clearly is supposed to be mysterious, but, like, why should I even care that it's mysterious? I knew it was going to be kind of a weird world thing, and I guess I did kind of understand that. And from what the plot, you described the plot, I actually kind of guessed it was going to be kind of like that, Virginia summarized. And that, actually, you know, that's one of my favorite Star Trek episodes. It can be done well. This was already... I had a feeling it was going to be something kind of like that. But, well, I'm already guessing the freaking plot just from watching a couple minutes of it. Is like, like, why are you trying to be... The reason the Star Trek episode works is you get ingrained into the story, and then things change, but you also get to see why. I guess it was Worf. Why it's literally you see why that character's feeling like they're going mad or something. At every single point where there's a new change, new universe or whatever, you just it is really a nice brain foxtrot for whatever I could say. But they're already establishing things are going to be weird. We don't know why. It's you know. You know, give me a baseline and then go off into tangents, not do like this. Anyway, I've had my say. KG5BGW.
All right, thank you, Jay. And you're asking the question, why? And I think the answer is we don't know why. We don't know why they made it. We don't know what they were trying to do and why. But I'll bring that up during my part. Okay, next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, you saw the film. What did you think about the plot from KE5ICX?
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Well, I agree with everybody. A plot didn't make a lot of sense. Obviously, I don't think the writer ever understood it. The gist I got out of it was that their whole claim, if I understood their explanation by the two EMTs that kept coming to her and supposed to be her guide, I guess, was that, once again, because of their lame excuse of quantum entanglement, that is why her friend in her coma-like state was able to manipulate and control the main girl's life, and kept sending her through different time and space because she was trying to communicate with her and was pulling her back and forth. But that doesn't really explain why the psychologist and why the teacher were involved. I guess because they're in close proximity during the accident, or maybe some way she remembers them taking her to the hospital. I don't. It doesn't explain that part of it at all. So once again, major loophole. Even if you go with me on what I was thinking they were trying to say. So yeah, I think that was supposed to be the whole gist of it. And then obviously, if you go along with that theory, then it was a very, very, very simple story. Then it was all about basically the girl coming to admit that she was the cause of why her friend was in the hospital. This was the thing kind of looked at it, I even joked around last night that it felt like an after-school special, just because it was cheesy looking and a lot of the dialogue was cheesy, and it was all about the girl texting and driving. But that was, to me, it was really what the story boiled down to. It was really just the girl, what was it, Maddie? I can't remember her name. Carter. Basically needing to come to grips, or a friend helping her to come to grips that she was the cause of her being in the hospital. And it's like once she does that, then her friend comes out of the coma and then dies. Okay, that's not particularly a happy ending. But at least the movie seemed to have a conclusion. But then my bigger, issue, even on top of that, is then we have the mystery girl at the end that, once again, that the girl can only see her. So does that mean that she killed that girl before she killed her other friend, and that's why she can only see and interact with her? What does she got to do with the story? From what I can tell, absolutely nothing. So I don't know if they took a part out of the movie, because the thing was already so long, that would explain exactly where she ties into the bigger story. But they never really explained that, or if they did, I missed it. Because this thing was a tough watch. It was just one, it's way too long for such a simple sort of idea that you just kept grinding on it. They just kept, you could figure it out very early on that obviously, she was the cause of the situation because of the accident, but then they played the girl being super dumb, like she couldn't see the point everybody was trying to make to her. And they just kept kind of, coming up with little different scenes to, once again, to get her to admit to what happened. And then once again, the two, the counselor and the teacher being involved, I know they were supposed to be, just additional cast to help move the story along, but then we had their little backstories that were told. Once again, it felt like fillers. We didn't really need that. It didn't really add anything to the story. I guess it's supposed to explain how they both ended up at that school. But once again, it had nothing to do with the main story. And if this whole thing really was in this girl's head, and she was pulling them through back and forth, then why would she even be concerned with what happened to those two in their past? And why would she be forcing them to face their demons, if you want to call it that, other than the fact that they were just, once again, trying to point out in this movie that the main character needed to face her demon about the accident. So, I don't know, it just wasn't well put together. And then we also had to put up with 20 or 30 minutes of them showing, scenes of the past of her and her best friend hanging out and just laughing at everything and yada yada. That just went on and on and on. I get one scene, makes total sense, but did we need multiple? It was just not well written or well produced. But anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on this one. Back to net, KB9, that's okay.
This is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, your thoughts on the plot?
This is WB50ZL. Well, the plot just wasn't. This is just some random ideas stuck together, in my opinion. If you had to describe the plot, it was very, very thin. And it wasn't terribly interesting. It was just a lot of random stuff. It's like nothing ever happened, although all kinds of bad stuff happened, but there wasn't any rhyme or reason to it. Characters were not terribly interesting. I don't know how they got Malcolm McDowell in this movie. He made a ton of movies, and he could carry a good movie, or he had lots of minor parts in him. He's a fantastic actor. I don't know how they talked him into being this. His character wasn't very interesting, and the thing was wasted on him. I just figure, they had pictures of him or something to talk him into making this. I just finished up not even knowing what the thing was about. It's just, weird stuff happened, and they never really explained it very well or told us anything. They're just random acts strung together. I think the kids who starred this movie also wrote it. That's the only thing I can figure. All right, back to net, WB50ZL.
Right, thank you, Brenda. Next up is Bill, W5BLT. I'm most interested in your thoughts on this one. What are your thoughts on this one from KE5ICX?
Well, Tom, I'm sorry to disappoint you. To say that right off. I think if I could have, like if I had vision and wasn't blind, maybe I would have enjoyed this movie. I don't know. It didn't sound like it. I was bored in the first 5 minutes, and then I went and looked for reviews, and some of the reviews were very good, saying how the director put together the scenes and it all fits together like a puzzle, and it's just a great movie. And so I was hopeful, and I watched another 5 minutes, read some more reviews, watched another 5 minutes, read a few more reviews, tried to find something else online that would explain this fiasco. And nobody really could explain it. I did see that it's a kind of a PSA, a public service announcement for don't text and drive. And I think maybe they were writing this script while they were trying to drive. I don't know. The plot was horrible. The film was horrible. I couldn't follow it, and I made it through it just because the Afterglow movie net. I wanted to do it for the net. I did it, and I sit here today not feeling like I accomplished much. I don't know how I get these 2 hours back, but there it is. That's it, W5BLT.
Well, thank you, Bill, and I have to thank everyone on the Afterglow MovieNet for having taken the time out of their busy lives to waste it on terrible films, of which we've seen a number of them through the years, even in the last few weeks, and yet they keep coming back for more and more abuse. Without you, we wouldn't be able to educate the rest of the world on what films to avoid and why. So you've all done an exemplary job. I just want you to know that, and you deserve an award. Maybe not a Razzie, although maybe a Razzie award for distinguished service above and beyond the call of duty. I don't think even movie reviewers have been through this kind of abuse like we have, but we've persevered and we've gotten through it. Okay, before I make my comments, and I wrote some notes, thanks to you, I have, I think, a few things to say. But first, I'm going to ask if anyone else would like to join us this evening. Tonight's movie is The Black Hole. This is the one with Malcolm McDowell from 2016 about little mini black holes and quantum entanglement and things like that weren't explained at all in this film. If you'd like to check in, whether you've seen the movie or not, please come to your call, sign your name, and did you see it? All right, I guess I'll make some comments. We remember watching a movie a couple of weeks ago, The Monster A Go-Go, which was recommended anonymously by one of you, who will remain nameless, and it got put on the list. But the thing thing was is that we learned the backstory of that movie, and it was two directors because it was a film that was unfinished, incomplete, several years before it was released. Actors changed, stories changed, it got really weird and disjointed. Sound familiar? Because this film went, 5 years, something like that, before it was released, and it's disjointed and strange and with different actors, not quite as extreme as Monster A Go-Go, but very similar, which leads me to believe that this is a problem and this is a malady. It's not always just science fiction films, but science fiction films have a tendency involved, world building, and all the things that go along with it. It takes up time, eats up money, eats up resources, and I think that's maybe what happened here. So the movie lacks structure because over the period of whatever 5 years they did editing, or they did more filming, or they did too much filming at the beginning, and then they got Malcolm McDowell in it, and they want to use his name. They've paid for it. They want to use it, even though the film sucks. They want him out there. They want Denver, or they want Colorado to be on the list of places to go make quality movies. Well, none of that happened in any sort of way. Now, here's some things on editing. Talking about editing, if you have a film and you've got lots of stuff, and your movie and the narrative changes, and you decide, well, it makes more sense if we film it this way, or we do this scene, and now you've got two scenes that do the same thing. A good director and a good editor just cut one of the two, and they hope for the best, and then they try and make the movie work. Sometimes they go back and they rework the film after it's released because there's problems, and they've got money to do it. Other times they can't, and they go when they cut the film more or change scenes around. Usually they cut it more, and then suddenly subsequent scenes don't make sense because another scene is now missing because it didn't work for one reason or another. So your editing gets very choppy, and I'm beginning to believe that's probably what happened here. Another example of this in a better way, in a good way, is editing involving Star Wars. If you have read about or seen any videos about the original Star Wars edit, you will find out that the movie sucked. It did not go over very well, and they moved scenes around considerably. And I won't go into the details because we're not talking about that film. But I saw some of the scenes that were cut. They were boring, slow. George Lucas second round type stuff on the sequels that came 1, 2, and 3. It had that feel to it to a certain extent. Very boring, slow, and it took editing to fix it, and they fixed it. They did. I think Francis Ford Coppola helped with suggestions on how to edit the film, and they went ahead and did those edits. So there's something there. And then another thing to say. I was talking to Brenda today. We were talking about the movie a little bit, and I think I'm going to repeat it here, is that we've watched Twilight Zone for years, and it's always considered the great, wonderful series. And the one thing that makes it work, that we don't realize that makes it work, is they never explain the supernatural power involved, which is the Twilight Zone. It's the vehicle of the show. We don't know what it is. It might be God. It might be the devil. It might be the universe. We do know it's between darkness and light. It is this thing called the Twilight Zone, as he says at the beginning of each episode. And the only face we have is of Rod Serling. And he's sort of looks a little bit like the demonic force, or the force that's coming back and saying, I'm going to tell you a story, and while I'm smoking my cigarettes, you're going to realize that this guy is, or this gal is going to get their comeuppance, or somebody's going to be rewarded for doing the right thing. And depending on the tenor of the episode, but you knew that somebody was going to get the boom, but you never knew how that was. You find out how it would happen, but you didn't know the why outside of justice prevails. Well, that's no real story plot resolution, but it worked because we accepted it, just like we accepted the Enterprise and its cardboard sets as flying through space. That made it work. Now, can you do the same thing and mimic a Twilight Zone episode in a movie, or even many TV series that aren't? Kind of, but most of the time the answer is no. You have to have a reason, motivation, and understanding, and you just can't plop something out there and expect us to believe it. You've got to put some sort of a justification in it. Now, there was a mention of Star Trek Parallels was the name of the episode with Worf. Well, we figured that one out. We got the shortcut as far as what Star Trek is. We know the universe extremely well. Worf's coming back, and things keep changing around him. And that's what happens in this, and that's the episode I thought of as well, Virginia. When I saw it, I thought, oh, this makes sense. And then it didn't make sense because it never went anywhere. It never, mainly I think because of editing, it never continued to make it work. So those things just don't work. What's a simpler thing you could do, but then it still leaves you coming up short of your goal of making a coherent film? Make them all dream sequences. Which was a musical of sorts, and that one was all just loaded with dream sequences in it, and it worked, and that was just an excuse to do a lot of elaborate Bob Fosse dance numbers in it, but it's a wonderful film to watch, and it didn't get very good reviews. I enjoyed it. I got it, but probably for the same reason that too many dream sequences, not enough of a solution. But at the end, your main character dies. He's never better for what he is. He just died being who he was, which was kind of what Bob Fosse was. So you kind of have to know the Bob Fosse story to make that one work. But I digress. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts on all of that. Too much, too little. When you make a film, it makes a bad movie. So editing matters, and you've got to have enough to make the film work. That did not happen. Okay, this is KE5ICX. Next up, we're going to talk about the characterization, and then probably in passing, I'll ask Ken if this is something he wants to see if he's still out there. So we'll start at the top. Characterization, Bill, you're number one on the runway. Tell us, what did you think of our cast and the characters from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. First, I'm going to throw in a few comments here about editing since you brought that up. I was going to bring it up anyway. To me, the editing was extremely erratic. And this could be because there were other parts of the movie, many more scenes that they just cut out. It could be because they were trying to make it seem like Maddie was being thrown around to these different situations kind of erratically. But I think it was mainly bad editing, or, again, they threw out some connecting scenes, and what was left was very disconnected. So in some of the scenes, something's going on. Next scene starts, things are quite different. And it doesn't look like it's next year or next month. It looks like it's the same day or the next day, and things are different. So, for instance, at some point, Maddie's got this guy she's got a crush on, kind of, halfway. And then suddenly, they're like girlfriend. They're real close. But it's like it just kind of happened. And there's other things like that. I mentioned earlier her coming back to the house and it being a different house, and she didn't seem worried by that. And that made no sense. So, and there's several other places in this that were similar. If you think about it, the vast majority of this movie, Maddie Carver was the protagonist, and it was filmed from her point of view. She was in the scene. And she was the character that you were supposed to care about. And so you would think that would be comparatively easier to edit because it's her point of view, and you could kind of continue what's going. And if she's confused by something, you could find out because she would say it. And there are a few places where she says she's confused. But there's other places where things happen and she's not confused. So that's what made no sense to me. By the way, and later in the movie, there are places where Jess, her good friend, the one that gets in the car accident, gets damaged, she goes in and she sees Maddie Carver as the patient. It's the other way around. And I did not understand those scenes at all. Like the scenes where Jess was acting very mean and vindictive and power, and there were some of them where she had these other boys that were doing her thing, and she was going to attack Maddie with medieval torture things. I don't know. This is just over the top. Okay, so as far as characterizations, Maddie Carver was supposed to be, again, like I mentioned, the protagonist, somebody we're supposed to care about. And in general, you kind of do that. You wonder why is she being thrown around this way. But again, when she's texting while driving, and then she seems to not care much about that, doing it originally, and that kind of makes you wonder a little bit about whether she's such a good character. And although she says early on in the movie about her parents splitting up, you don't see her parents. You don't really see things about them. And did you notice that she's got a picture in her house of the two guys that were the EMT guys, the Edgar's Church of the Revelation, Edgar and whatever the guy's name was, Dean or whatever his name was, Edgar and the other guy. Why are their pictures in her house? I don't know. There are just so many weird things about this movie. It's hard to know how to think about the characterization of these crazy characters. Jess was so sweet early in the movie, and then she becomes horrible figure later, and then she's lying there in the bed in the hospital. I don't know how to think about Jess, because she's displayed so many different ways in the movie. How about Edgar from Edgar's Church of the Revelation and all that stuff? I don't know how to interpret him. He seems like he's trying to help Maddie, but does he help her? No. He says, come on into the Church of the Revelation. Go in here and we'll figure everything out for you. They didn't figure anything out. So they let me down. The movie let us down in every scene nearly. Okay? It let us down. And the characters let us down. Did the Malcolm McDowell character, the music director, did he do anything that really led to an improvement in the kids? Not really. I mean, he was a teacher, and that was all fine, teacher, and a music director and everything. But he didn't come in and save the day. He didn't give Maddie some wise information, or he didn't straighten everything out. Nobody did. No parent did. And the the guidance counselor, Tony Karloftis was the character's name. She was confused by everything. She didn't help any. The science teacher, the character's name was Mark Willis, that was the Dean King guy. He tried to throw in some quasi-science things about quantum entanglement and other goofy things, and action and reaction. But that didn't help anything. That didn't even muddy things. That was just garbage that he was spewing out. So, this is what bothers me. The characterization is horrible. You have these different characters, and their characters change for no apparent reason, and they don't really resolve the issue. In some cases, they create problems, but they don't resolve the problems. You know, you want to have somebody that comes in and fixes things. The friend that fixes things, the teacher that comes in, somebody that comes in and straightens everything out and gets everything on the up and up. That does not happen. So that's why I think the characterizations were lousy. The actors acted okay to these. Malcolm McDowell did what he was supposed to do. Dean Cain and the other actors and actresses, I think, they did an okay thing, but the writing was so inconsistent and crazy and meaningless, I don't know how the characters figured out how to do the scenes. If I was one of those actors, I would look quizzically and say, what am I supposed to be thinking in this scene? What's going on? What's the reason for this? And I can't imagine the director had a good answer to that question, unless there was a completely different plot, or maybe there are more than one plot, and they filmed a couple different movies, and they edited it together very, very, very badly. So in other words, I am not happy with the characterization. N5BB, thank you.
Hey, Bill, thank you. And I got some comments, but I'm going to hold mine towards the end. Next up is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, characterization, you're on.
Okay, well, first off, I think Sean was right. I think this was an after-school special. It had about the length of plot that an after-school special had, but they tried to squeeze that 20 minutes into 2 hours, and they just couldn't do it. I believe the savior of Star Wars was Marsha Lucas. She was a crack editor, and George Lucas was, he just got lucky. He really did. Star Wars is greatness, but he got lucky. And speaking of George Lucas, he once said of 2001, he said the plot was razor thin. So having a thin plot isn't a problem if you know what you're trying to say, and you know how to give that plot some kind of, place to live. And for the Star Trek example, that kind of thing worked because we already knew that universe. We didn't have to guess at what was real and what was not. So getting into the characters of this, my first impression was that apart from the random, Malcolm McDowell or so, every character in this, they were just all the same. Even the main character at first, I was like, man, all the women in this movie are all about the same age. They all have the same accent. They're all, the guidance counselor lady didn't look like she was much older than the kids who, the people who were playing the teenagers in this movie. And, everybody had that same generic quality about everything. It's like going on YouTube and watching like YouTube channels made by people in their mid-20s. They all have the same accent. They all sound like they've been watching the same things or listening to the same things for their entire life. They've been on the internet their whole life, and they're all dishwater blah. Everybody's the same. And then you start to get to the point where you start to question whether any voiceover on YouTube is even a real person. You start to wonder if it's all just AI. And that's kind of how this felt. I won't get into round 3 stuff. I'll get into that in round 3. But all the performances felt that way. All the characters felt like they were just reading their lines, or else it was just so jumbled that there was no through line in their performances. The sort of cameo type big names in this are good people. Malcolm McDowell's a good actor. Dean Cain is very likable. And it just stinks that they were given this kind of, just nonsense. Malcolm McDowell had zero, there was zero, effect. He had zero effect as a character on anything in the plot. He was just sort of a placeholder to be a big name. That was his only purpose in this story. He didn't have any, there was no sense that he had any, relevance to the plot any whatsoever. The whole romancy thing between the guidance counselor and Mr. Willis, the Dean Cain character, she was just so boring and didn't seem to know anything, and she just didn't seem right for that part. It would have been better if they picked somebody who seemed more to match the age and experience level of the science teacher. She just didn't seem like she should be guidance counseling or counseling anyone. And then you had all these random throwaway characters that could have been nice and symbolic, like the custodian, and then you had it didn't have any atmosphere. It had all the stereotypes. It had like, oh, here's a couple of jocks who are just jerks, or here's the Jess acting like the nerd, and then the next scene she's alternate universe Jess, and she's acting like, kind of a trashy, slutty kind of person who's mean. And but there was no, I think of like 80s movies, and there was sort of an atmosphere to the culture of a movie that you felt like you knew this culture or knew these people, and this place and all these people was very. And Boulder, Colorado was supposed to be a character in this. It was very underserved because I didn't see any of the beauty of Colorado. The way this was filmed, this is kind of round 3 stuff, but it was filmed so badly. It was so bland. There was no consistency of, there was no sense in even knowing where you were. One minute you were in this kind of boring-looking, college campus that was supposed to be a high school, and then the next minute you were out in the woods or the boonies somewhere, or you were in some rocks where there was a party. It was dark. There was just no sense of any character of the place or the people. I'd say the most interesting characters were the two sort of, I thought of them as Bill and Ted, the two kind of guides. They were supposed to be sort of the angels or the guides who turned out to be the EMTs, I guess, in real life. I don't know what was real in this or not. They were probably the most interesting characters in the movie. I just maybe make a movie about them. I don't know. The main character, Maddie, she was likable once you kind of figured out the kind of person she was, but you couldn't tell. They didn't spend any time in the first few minutes of the movie getting into what kind of person she was. It was all just very random, very generic. Too little, too late on the part of any. I mean, it wasn't the actors' faults. They were generally okay actors. The local talent in the movie was, they were fair to Midland, and the big name talent didn't have anything to do. So back to net, NV5F.
Thank you, Virginia. And I don't disagree with anything you said. Okay, Ken, all hands on deck. N2 VIP. Ken, you've been listening.
Yeah. Brevity is not common on this net, N2 VIP. I took the time to watch two trailers. Trailer for this movie and a trailer for Black Hole 1979. And I can tell you, Virginia, you're never going to see Black Hole 1979 on this net because it looks too good. And Tom, you referred to yourself as a victim of this. Everybody on the net is a victim. You guys choose to do this. You're not a victim when you choose it. So with that, I'm gonna sync up and I'm gonna give you my notes. We like to think that the process of making a movie follows a logical progression. There's a plot, a script is written, actors are found, the film is filmed, and then it's released. But that's not always the case. I think this movie was made because the director got tax breaks and somehow attached Dean Cain and McDowell to it. I think the actors came before the story. Then they wrote the script. And then I think they ran out of money and they tried to salvage it, as shown by re-releasing it 3 times with 3 different names. I'm very curious about how this production timeline ties in with the 2008 stock market crash and actors needing money and directors looking for product and things like that. You guys, having seen the movie, tried really hard to make sense of what you saw in the movie. I think you have to step back and wonder how this movie got to be made. I think that's where the answer is on this movie. And no, I will not see the movie. N2 VIP.
Ken, thank you. That was an Academy Award-winning performance. I covered you over a little bit. I kept blabbing, but I got nearly all of it. And I think you hit the nail on the head. You figured it all out. See, quantum entanglement works, but it's our quantum entanglement, not theirs. Thanks. I appreciate your comments this evening. You made my evening. Okay, next up is Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, what do you think about characterization from KE5ICX?
This is KG5BZW. Since I didn't really watch the movie, I can't really say much, although it would be kind of interesting. Mind you, I know this is not actually really in any way possible in multiple senses of the word, but it seems like, I'm trying to remember, but I remember some TV shows where they'd have like did they ever have a mystery? It seems like that they I'm trying to remember if there was ever a show where they drummed up that there was going to be an interesting person showing up, and suddenly this person appears, and I don't know if I'm making that up, but it would be kind of funny if suddenly there was Malcolm McDowell and whatever. But obviously, since it's a movie, you obviously are going to credit him, and he can't show up. And I'm just trying to think of some way, maybe you could save this film because it doesn't seem like there is much saving it. Other than that, I mean, as far as victims, you can still be a victim of choices you make because because it's at least two person. I don't know. I'm going to make this way too long, and besides, I know it's late. But you order a bit of food, and if it comes out cold or it comes out rotten, and it comes out whatever, you didn't. And normally, I don't know. Obviously, this is just going to be terrible. But if you weren't offered, no, there's a better analogy. I'm already disliking this analogy. Actually, the thing that came to mind was actually something more horrific, but about going somewhere to walk on something and the damn thing collapsing on you or something like that. But because you still make the choice to go there, but the builders, the engineers, whatever, the architects, all didn't come together to actually build it actually as a spec, and it actually failed. But anyway, blah blah blah, really random stuff. I got nothing else. It's just I don't know. KG5BZW.
Jay, well, thanks for your contribution. I keep forgetting that you said that you really hadn't, you kind of bailed early on the movie, but you had some good comments. Next up, Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization, acting? I think that's where we're at. Go ahead, from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. These. Well, this is just kind of the way it just kind of hit me last night as we was watching it. It felt like across the board, the acting felt like one of those sitcoms where the family kids are in the local school play and the actors are trying to play down their acting abilities and be very wooden and very generic to make it feel like it's a high school play. But in reality, they're good actors, but they're acting like bad actors intentionally. And that's what this movie, or these characters, felt like to me. The acting was pretty much across the board, other than obviously McDowell, but he had such a small part in it that was irrelevant. Dean, he was just okay. And that's when I've seen him do much better in other films and TV shows. Even his characters are a little bit, it just felt off. So I guess I kind of blame the director for a lot of this, just not setting things up correctly, or because it almost felt like several of these characters almost like they were just phoning it in and almost sounded robotic in places, and it just was not good. But yeah, our characters are pretty generic. Our main character, Maddie, at first she seems like she's a very smart, intelligent young lady. She figures out very early on something's not right, but then she kind of goes kind of brainless on us and just starts ignoring everybody and just starts throwing tantrums. Then in the end she comes around to a realization. So she does have a little bit of a journey. The best friend, she seemed okay, I guess. Obviously she kept changing as, once again, I guess as she bounced around universes or as her mind drifted as she was in that coma. So she acted different, so that kind of explains why her character. But we really don't. We learn a little bit about her. Our teacher, our science teacher, once again, we've seen, a little bit of his background, but no real growth there. I agree with you, Virginia, on the counselor. She was completely worthless as a counselor, which almost makes her feel like a real counselor. She was a lot like my high school counselor. He definitely phoned it in. He didn't really want to be there. He didn't really help the kids much. The whole time she pretty much just kept ignoring everybody and kept in, just trying to explain everything off and not really trying to help the kids. And then, we see her childhood or whatever. And I don't know if that's supposed to explain why she's cold to the kids. But once again, just very odd. And then, her two EMTs. One EMT, I don't know the actor's name. I didn't look it up. But I've seen him in a few other things. But he's typically pretty wooden like the older guy. I think that is his acting ability. It's about as good as it gets for him. But all around, pretty lame characters. Acting was definitely not up to snuff. But then again, I'm guessing this was put together pretty quickly and for super cheap. So, yeah, that's all I got for this round. Back to net. KB9S, okay.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, characterization acting. Go.
This is WB50ZL. Yeah, it was very unsettling to have characters you can't rely on. Never know who's going to show up. You know, might be a good guy in this scene and a bad guy in the next scene, and it just kept wavering back and forth. So, you know, most movies you figure out early on who you like and don't like, and you know, you kind of got to pick a horse. And sure, they can make mistakes and everything, but you do want to know who they are, just like you would with your real friends. You know, you want to know who you're going to rely on, and you want to understand them, and you know, have some consistency. And this had none of that. It was just back and forth, and the situations are back and forth. You know, which girl is in the hospital? We don't know. They both were, but they couldn't be. So the whole movie was just full of inconsistencies and impossibilities and things that just couldn't have happened, which aggravated me, frankly. It's like I need some clarity here. I need somebody to explain to me what's going on. The actors did okay acting, mostly. I don't have a real quarrel with that. A couple of them were a little amateurish, but well, if I were an actor and having to be in this movie, I'd be really mad, and we want to cash that paycheck as soon as I could. All right, back to net. WB50ZL.
Okie dokie. And finally, Bill, W5BLT. Bill, your thoughts on characterization acting?
Well, I do want to say something for the gentleman, Ken, I think it was, that said that we would never watch Disney's The Black Hole on this net. Because of quantum entanglement, we actually did watch Disney's The Black Hole last week. And it has moved up my list as one of the better movies that we've seen. Monster Go-Go has now moved up my list as being a better movie than this one. This one is, we've seen some bad ones in the time, a couple of years that I've been on this net, but I think this one has to take the cake for the worst. I know I say that every couple of weeks, but I mean it this time. Characterization, they did what they could with what they had, and what they had was very weak. Boulder, Colorado is a great character in this movie. I don't know how you can be threatening and welcoming at the same time. It's very odd. So, you know, you wanted to like Maddie. I wanted to really like her as the main character because I was hoping this movie would be different than what we've seen and be more interesting. But, you know, the characterization, I think they could have done a lot more with it.
Elvis, up to the building.
Well, Elvis is leaving the building, but I'll just say this and let Elvis leave. You can only do so much with the script you've got. And the editor, the director, it just plays a big part in it. And unfortunately, they just fell apart. There was nothing here. And no matter how I would have liked to see this, maybe like in a Twilight Zone. In a Twilight Zone, this was not, and it's unfortunate because I think obviously these people can act. I think I didn't come across anything that where they couldn't. It's just a horrible script. W5BLT.
My comments, I'm not going to repeat. I think everybody has pretty much said it. I don't think these people had a lot to go on. They didn't have a lot of script. I did not know. I did not watch the adventures of Superman and Lois, I guess it was, but I do remember Dean Cain in that role, at least briefly watching it here and there, and I didn't even recognize him in this because he phoned in his performance, Malcolm McDowell phoned in his performance, and Izzy Steele was just sort of out there in her quantum entanglement, trying to entangle us in whatever she was entangled in, and we all got stuck in it. So I don't have much to say. I didn't understand it. Everybody looked the same, even the characters, and even our more colorful actors that are seasoned came off as bland. I agree. Okay. Well, that's all I'm going to say about it. We are at 12 o'clock. I'll go ahead and open it up and ask if anyone has any additional comments they want to bring. Final comments, that is. Please come with your call, and I'll go down the list. If there's more than one, and if there's less than one, then we won't go down the list either. But you get the picture. Please go ahead.
NV5F.
All right, NV5F, that would be Virginia. I think you get the final word. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. I will try to keep it brief. Yes, I bet everybody here is really, really missing Maximilian Schell and Maximilian the robot and that big, giant, cavernous spaceship that didn't make any sense, but it made a whole lot more sense than this movie. I guess my main thing for round 3 is that it was just about the way it was filmed. It was so weirdly like inconsistent and bland at the same time. At first it's all gray, everything's gray, and you think, oh, this is going to be one of those bland, God, there's so many movies now, they make them, it's like all you need now to make a movie is a, a camera package from a rental shop, and even if you don't know anything about contrast and composition, and you're just it looked like they were trying to imitate other things they'd seen, and they were doing it inconsistently, and so you got this kind of like bland like thing with the color just unsaturated, all bled out, and it was like, oh, this is going to be kind of one of those surrealist things, everything's kind of gray and the only thing red is the blood or what. And then the next minute it's got what I call the Kubrick red filter, where you're like in a hallway and like everything, like all these lockers, they're all red, and there's whole, sections of the room that's just, they've got red stuff everywhere, and the film, the colors are all saturated, and they even would do it within a scene. They would just switch from a gray sort of, and I get what they were trying to do, but it was just so inconsistent. And then on top of that, it was all sort of low contrast, and it was just bad. It was like, oh, just because you have good equipment, that's always in focus, or the exposure's okay. It just doesn't make you a cinematographer. It was just poor in ways that most people wouldn't think were poor. Oh, it looked fine. It sounded fine. The audio was super dry and not mixed in place. And it wasn't like bad audio like my first student film audio with like ambient sound or camera noise or anything. It was just so dry and dull. The whole thing was like you were listening through cotton. It was just terrible. So yeah, the other thing that got me was all the like cheesy CG sort of After Effects kind of special effects, like the cheesy, CG tornado and the CG smoke during the fire. It was just so poor. The whole thing was dull as dishwater, even visually. It was just terrible. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening. Back to net, MV5F.
I don't think I've heard the words bland and terrible used so much tonight by so many people, but I think we hit a record. And could this be the worst movie ever? I don't know. We've had some pretty bad films. But any rate. Okay, well, I've got scheduled on here, now that I got that control back of my Facebook page, and we won't go into that, but all the movies disappeared for a while Facebook did some changes to my stuff so I could get it back. But next week's movie is listed as The House in Nightmare Park from 1977. That may be the one we will do. I'd like you guys to think about the possibility. I know we've been talking about at least two films. I remember one of the two. I can't think what the other one is. But we mentioned Colossus, the Forbin Project, as a possible film. Would you folks be interested potentially of doing that for Field Day? We'll view it at Field Day, and then we'll talk about it the following week. And of course, if you can't come to DARC Field Day on Saturday evening at 10:30, you can watch it on your own, and then we can still discuss it the following week. That may be a good choice, or if you've got something better you would like to do, we've done Close Encounters, we did Little Shop of Horrors, we've done a number of different films that were quite interesting and were fun in a group setting. So think about it. If you've got something better you want to try, then Colossus, the Forbin Project, or something that you think would be a lot of fun that we could watch together, mention it, and we'll put it on the list for Field Day. Or some other time, too. I'm not going to limit it to that. So let me know, and I'm all ears. I'm always looking forward to things. I just start popping things into the list as I see things online when I get time. Many of these films I've never seen before, so you never know. Oh, I better reset. Right. So we'll try this all again next week, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it, and send me your ideas, and we'll do whatever it is you want to do, Field Day and any other movies. And take a gander at the list that's currently there. There's some films that haven't been posted with dates. If those are still okay, fine. If you don't want to, or you see something better, we'll move it up the list. There's by no means is this a definitive list in the order. There's no reason to watch just because we have to watch. If there's something else you want to see or you think might be better or more interesting or has come up, then let's do it. All right, with that, I'm going to say 7-3 to everybody. Thank you all. I had a good time. I'm going to go watch something really terrible, the worst episode of Lost in Space, called The Great Vegetable Rebellion, which is on right now. Oh, boy. We'll see you next week. This is KE5ICX. Clear.
Hey, Tom, this is NTIBB. You might consider Dr. Strangelove. That's got enough comedy in it. It might become interesting for Field Day. Dr. Strangelove. Oh boy. See you inside BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. We actually watched that film together. It was part of a retrospective that was going on, and we went to the theater and saw it on the big screen. It was really enjoyable on big screen. There's a whole story about that sometime. But anyway, okay, see you later. Bye.
Yeah, I know that Dr. Strangelove we've seen before, but I just thought it might be interesting. You know, something with some comedy in it, something like Dr. Strangelove might be fun for field day. Anyway, inside BB clear. Good night.
And yay, talking carrots.